It's Thursday night, and welcome to the home of Loaded HQ, the home of the fully loaded transfer show. So, massive welcome to you all, and you're in for a treat. We have, for the next 6 weeks, we have all the links, the rumours, the transfers, fingers crossed, and all the news coming from across Europe and from our home at Newcastle as well. And there's no better person to join me on this ride than what I'd like to call the mechanical engineer, Mr. Dash Shocks. Yes, you.
It's me.
The mechanical engineer, the guy that keeps things ticking. How are you, Dash?
All good, Pete. All good. Yeah, we had an interesting one last night. We had a show last night that you guys haven't seen. In the show, we did try to play it along that it was Christmas Eve, but no, we recorded last night. But that was a great show and something for people to look forward to on Christmas Eve. We'll talk about that later on towards the end of the show. But I'm good, Pete. All ready for Christmas.
Definitely.
And more importantly, the transfer window.
Oh, I tell you what, we need that more than anything. But if we're going to talk transfers, there is no better person to talk transfers than Newcastle World's very own and making his debut on YouTube, Jordan Cronin. So welcome in, Jordan.
Hello, lads. Lloyd.
All right, Jordan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good. Well, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
No problem at all, mate. Really appreciate you coming on and talking transfers with us. But obviously, before we get into the transfers, you are working for Newcastle World alongside Liam Kennedy. How are things going since you've been working for Newcastle World? What is it like day to day within your role, mate?
Yeah, so I moved on to the Newcastle World role in November. I was previously on the Shields Gazette, which is a sister title to the company I currently work for, which is JPI Media. So got that role in November, and obviously have the luxury of working next to Liam Kennedy, who is now my boss. Which is an interesting dynamic. He's another guy really well, but, a great guy to learn off. So I knew Liam for a couple of years now, so I got involved with Newcastle World just through him. And it's a great role for me. I'm from Newcastle. I grew up. I don't mind saying it. I grew up as a Newcastle fan. So you could say that this is the dream job for me, to be honest. Covering the club home and away. That's the good side of it. Covering the games, the day-to-day basis is at the minute anyway. Leading up to Christmas is very, very manic. So press conference game, but you wouldn't have it any other way. It's keeping us awake anyway during the festive period. But loving every minute of it. So I'm new to the role, but really, really enjoying it, and say a dream job. A dream job.
Perfect. No, and it would be for any Newcastle fan being able to cover the club that they love day to day. It would certainly be a dream for anybody. So look, I've seen you work.
Jordan, can I just one? Sorry, Pete. Can I just say one thing? So, we heard that you might be a bit nervous coming on the show because this is your debut. But we also heard that this is the pressure that you put Eddie Howe under when you're asking him questions and so like that. So the shoe's on the other foot. So you know how he feels now.
yeah, it's a good point. But to be fair to Eddie Howe, he deals with the media really well. I'm sure as fans listening, you can agree that he speaks really well at the media. The previous manager wasn't as good with the media, shall we put it. Eddie Howe's been brilliant so far. They'll say every answer is well thought of. He doesn't tend to give much away, but he's got the fans on side, and he's reunited a football club, and I say the full media beat up behind him as well, and hoping that he can obviously lead Newcastle to glory.
No, absolutely spot on, and I would agree. I'll be honest with you. I watch the pressers for the managers every week, and obviously the manager previous that will remain nameless, compared to Eddie Howe now, it is like night and day, isn't it? It really is. Like the way in which he talks, how open and honest he is with regards to the transfers and just everything around the club. And you've kind of segued nicely into the next part, really. So, Daz mentioned it as well, but you were at the press conference today, am I right? And you sort of asking Eddie Howe the questions with regards to transfers. Was there any nuggets that he let slip for us, or was he quite reserved on his transfer business?
I think today was probably the most he's give away on the transfer. And to be honest, we're asking questions about the January transfer window earlier this month, and he was saying, look, the focus is on the current players. But he did look ahead to the January transfer window. Did admit that there was a list of targets that he looked at, and then also went into the sort of caveat of that is that he didn't want to make any promises to fans, because January is such a difficult market to deal with. I'm sure we'll come on that later. But in terms of January, yeah, he discussed it more at length today than he ever has, really. And sits around the corner now, and I can imagine he's desperate to get some business in. He's not going to come out and say it publicly, but the defensive side of things is a big struggle at the minute. I can imagine that'll be one position he wants to strengthen.
Definitely. Daz is having a freezing moment on his on his screen. He keeps coming in and out. He's
sorry, lads. I don't know what's happening. I think you can probably still hear me, but I'm just frozen. Yeah. So I check myself out and back in. So apologies.
No, don't worry. So we've talked about Eddie Howe, and obviously he was quite open today, and that was positive to hear. Naturally, I think he's going to play things down because he doesn't want to build up Newcastle fans' expectations, and that's quite right from his point of view. But looking ahead to the transfer window, and this is a question for both of you, really. Looking ahead to the transfer window, what are you guys looking for? And I'll be maybe a little bit more specific with that question. So, what are you expecting in the transfer window, and maybe even more specific than that, how many players do you think Newcastle are targeting?
I'm expecting Newcastle to be busy. It'll be a difficult market to deal in. Don't get us wrong, you're dealing with a lot of factors in terms of that. Clubs might not want to sell to Newcastle. You've got clubs that don't want to sell players midway through the season, and you've also got clubs that have said that Newcastle are the richest club in the world now, for example, and will not want to, or will demand more money than what usually would anyway. So you're dealing with a lot of factors, but I still expect Newcastle to get the business done. I'd imagine 4 players possibly at minimum. I think that's got to be the bare minimum. 4 players for me: a central defender, central midfielder, definitely a fullback, out and out fullback, and potentially a backup to Callum Wilson. But in terms of the players that Newcastle have been linked with, you can expect them to strengthen the defence for sure. Maybe a backup to Callum Wilson will be a bonus, but we can see obviously this season through the goals have conceded 41 goals in the league. The defence is the main issue. Eddie Howe knows that, and I'd expect them to go out and strengthen in that area.
No, great points there, Jordan. Daz, so what are your expectations for the window then?
Yeah, my expectations are a whole new back 4. Well, in total, 4 to 7 maybe new additions. That's a lot, and outgoings in as well. And I know we'll touch on a bit of that later on as well. But yeah, a whole new back 4, because we need something. That it's just been an absolute disaster. The guys playing in the wing back positions for recently aren't fullbacks. So it's and the centre backs can't defend anymore. You thought that we got away with it for so long. It's just caught up with us now. So that's the main area, and it's not the exciting area to strengthen, but we'll be happy when we sign when we make our first signing, because it's been so long and we don't get too many signings. So it's something different for us, something to look forward to this window. Then in midfield, need 2 in the midfield, and then backup for Callum Wilson, as Jordan has said. Just because if Callum Wilson gets injured, where do we go then? You know, we need something. We're going down if Callum's got injured, if we don't have any backup.
I would agree. I think as well, you know, in seasons gone by, you could probably get away with it with one main striker and just knowing that he's going to play every week, like Callum Wilson. But with COVID, it might not necessarily even be an injury. It might be COVID and he's out for 3 games. And, you know, I was listening to someone the other day and they said, you know, if Callum Wilson, unfortunately, and we pray that it never happens, but if he was to get COVID and misses 2 or 3 games in a row, that could massively impact the season, like 100%. So, you know, thinking about the squad depth, it's about having quality players that can replace quality players, because you never know who's going to be affected by COVID. It could be anyone. As Eddie Howe said in the presser, and you'll know, Jordan, that he said, you know, they're testing every day. And although it's a clean bill of health at the moment, things could change very, very quickly. But I think both of you made some great points in terms of who we need. I think we all agree with we need a brand new defence. But look, we're going to get down to it now. We're going to start looking at some players, or more specifically, looking at some of the rumours that are going around at the moment. So, you know, some of the rumours in particular, there's one that kind of stands out a little bit. And he's been linked for quite a while, and he's a player playing in Germany at the moment, and he's called Nicklas Sule, and he's a towering centre back. His contract's out in the summer, so he's only got 6 months left on his contract, and you know, as the Daily Record Sport, and they're not the only ones to mention this, but it says, as it says here, Nicklas Sule's Bayern Munich exit sealed as Newcastle target January raid. Now, be interesting to see your guys' thoughts on this, and we'll start with Jordan. So, Jordan, I mean, Nicklas Sule is he's been linked with this for quite a while now.
Yeah, I think it was a few weeks after the takeover was complete. He was on the first names to pop up. At the moment, it's not a name that I'm hearing that would be close. I'm hearing other names. Other central defender that would be more likely to come in, but I do believe he's an option. He's out of contract at the end of the season. Would probably go down as a high profile signing at the German international. So it's certainly one to watch. I wouldn't rule that out. But if they could get someone like that in, say a high profile player with, you know, carries a lot of pedigree in Germany, that would get the fans on side, I'm sure. But there is other names that I think would be more likely to come in, which I'm sure we'll go through as the show goes on.
Definitely, and Daz, I mean, with Nicklas Sule, he's currently starting most games for Bayern Munich at the back, as Jordan says, the German international. That would really be a sort of a big signing in a position that we really need. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it'd be definitely a statement. Yeah, I think we're having in our own WhatsApp group, we're having a bit of chat about different players, as we do every day since the takeover. Yeah, I went looking on a few websites then on him as well, and I tracked it back to here's a link that hasn't been mentioned. He was at Hoffenheim the same time as Joe Linton, so I'm hoping they're best buddies, and he can persuade him to come.
You're doing my job. I should be doing that,
Hey, all you need is the internet.
But again, a great point. And you know, players are attracted to moves based on what players are at the club. And if they did get on, it could be, you know, who would have thought that Joe Linton would be the cog that kind of brings the talent of Nicklas Sule to Newcastle United. But if it happens, I would take that all day long. Another link, or another rumour, should I say? And it was quite a strong rumour today, I have to be honest. A Welsh international currently plying his trade in Italy, for Juventus. Aaron Ramsey. There's been quite a little bit of talk initially about Aaron Ramsey potentially coming to Newcastle. Then it went a little bit quiet. Now it seems to have ramped up in the last couple of days, and it looks like Allegri at Juventus really kind of wants to move out a couple of midfielders, and he seems to be one of them. Jordan, have you heard anything from your point of view?
Yeah, I think with Ramsey, it would be a marquee signing for Newcastle if you were going to sign him in January. I mean, that would be an unbelievable signing, just given what he's done at Arsenal, in bits in the Juventus as well. Whether it's a doable deal, I'm not too sure. With Ramsey, you'd come with a very big wage. Now that wouldn't be a problem for Newcastle under the current ownership, but I just think so early under the new ownership might be a bit too soon to flash out wages like that. But again, you see players that come up out of contract at the end of the season, I believe. And I think Juventus would be willing to let him leave for free if someone could go and take on his wages. I say if you could get someone like that in, and that's the type of players that these owners will be new owners will be looking at. Whether that's going to be this January or maybe the end of the season, I'm not sure. But in terms of this January, it might be one that would be a bit difficult to get in. But again, one that I certainly wouldn't rule out. Say money can't talk, and if Newcastle were willing to pay Ramsey's wages, then they could prize him away. But that's a different question in itself.
Yeah, definitely. And Martin's made a point just a second ago. His wages are astronomical. But Daz, wages aside, Aaron Ramsey, I think he's just turned 30, soon to be 31. Would he be a player that you would take in our Newcastle midfield in January?
Well, I'd take anyone the way we are now. But if I had my pick, no, Aaron Ramsey wouldn't. He was always kind of, for me, it was kind of hot and cold at Arsenal as well. He did, and for Wales, I suppose when we're looking at Wales, it's always Bale that gets the headlines and stands out. But he's a decent player. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, the wages, there's a few different things. I'd look elsewhere. Rather than Ramsey. He doesn't tick all the boxes for me. But on a loan or something like that, maybe, I'd take anyone on loan, just if it's a case of, if we're getting towards the end of the window and we have no other, or we've used up all our options or players are turning us down, yeah, give me a shot then.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, and you made some good points on that. I mean, Duncan Castles today came out and he was very bullish in his responses with regards to Aaron Ramsey. He was saying that obviously he is on astronomical wages, but there's a chance that Newcastle could lure him to St James's Park with £150,000 wage a month, and he was saying that there's a real possibility of that deal potentially happening. So interesting points all round. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, but definitely one to keep an eye on, because that one surprised me with that quite strong link today. So we'll keep an eye on that one. But
just on that, Pete, because it's a link in. Yeah, the Gini. Yeah, I take Gini over Ramsey for sure.
Geordie Team for life. You are not wrong, Jordan. Gini or Ramsey? Which one you going for?
Yeah, I'd go with Wijnaldum every day of the week. He was a complete player, I think, for Newcastle. He was more of a number 10 at Newcastle, and obviously dropped deeper under Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. But for that, I think it was probably about 25 games that season. I think he petered off towards the end of the relegation season, but he was outstanding. I think he scored, was it 12 goals, I think, for Newcastle that year from that number 10 role. As I mentioned before, did drop deeper, but was turned into the complete midfielder under Jurgen Klopp. Whether he'd fancy a move back to Tyneside after going to PSG, I'm not quite sure. But if that was to become an option, which I'm not sure I would, I'd take him every day of the week. Absolutely. Loved him when he was at Newcastle.
He's a super talent, Gini, and he's still got a lot to give. I think with Gini Wijnaldum at the moment at PSG, he isn't playing regular football, and he's been a player that's been used to playing week in, week out, and I think he's becoming really frustrated. And I think he'd want to. I think there's a chance. I really do. I think we could afford him, clearly, and I think there could be a level of unfinished business with Gini coming back to this club. He left after a season. He said in his interviews when he left to go to Liverpool that if Newcastle had stayed up, he wouldn't have left. He never looked to leave. It was only because we fell out of the Premier League that he had to look to move on for his own career benefits. And clearly he made the right decision. But I think there may be a little bit of unfinished business there, and he could be for 2 or 3 years the catalyst to really drive our team forward, in particular in these last 6 months. So, yeah, Geordie 2 for life, a great point there, and a great mention for Gini Wijnaldum, and hopefully we hear a little bit more of that as the weeks go on. But a different type of player that I'm going to talk about now that was mentioned in the last couple of days, and Jordan, I'd be interested to hear your points on this. He's currently plying his trade in the Championship. A young attacking midfielder, Brennan Johnson. So Brennan Johnson has been linked with us and a couple of other clubs for it says on there for the value of for around £20 million. Now, Brennan Johnson, he's a talented boy, and he had a really good loan at Lincoln City last season. He's come back to Nottingham Forest, and he's really turning it on at the moment. I mean, I think he's got 5-6 goals, 4 assists this season. 20 years old, pacey, trickery, can find the net. He looks a real talent, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of when Sir Bobby Robson went out and bought Jermaine Genius from Nottingham Forest way back when in the early 2000s. But have you heard anything with regards to Brennan Johnson? Is that a link that's kind of been solidified in recent days?
I haven't heard anything personally, but what I would say is that story has came from a good source. So you'd look at that and you wouldn't rule it out. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about the player. I know he, as you mentioned before, he had a very good loan spell at Lincoln last year. Just came back to Nottingham Forest and done extremely well. But the thing with that is now Newcastle are under the new ownership. They can compete for young rising players like that. In the past, you see that there's been players coming up from the Championship. Say a couple of years ago, for example, you had Ben Rama who went to West Ham. Like Jared Bowen. They were players that you could see could make the step with the Premier League, but you never ever felt like Newcastle were going to sign them. But because they've got this new ownership, when you see links like that, I wouldn't completely dismiss them. You've got the new owners have pledged to build for the future, and I say signing up and coming talent like that would be a great move. But me personally, I haven't heard a lot on Johnson, but as I say, it's came from a good source. Yeah, so you see what happens with that one, I suppose.
Interesting, very interesting, and I think we've got a little taster of what his talents are about.
We do. Can you still hear me, Pete? I seem to be frozen.
Yeah.
I'm frozen. I am. My mouth, my lips are moving, but I'm going to play the clip and fix myself then. So here's the short clip. Watch the first touch.
It's a little short. This is Brennan. All his own work, and he's found the finish coolly into the corner as well to make it 3-0. Brennan Johnson.
Yeah, so a little taster of what he's about. Great touch, pacey, powerful, good finish. A real prospect, and only 20 years old as well. Playing in a team that are not smashing it in the Championship by any means. They're up there challenging. So, could be a player that could be of a real use for Newcastle United. So, again, guys, keep a lookout, keep watching, because, he is definitely a talented player. The last one for me, in terms of the rumours, before we get into sort of the key players, is... I'm going for the jugular here. I'm going for the top. So people in the chat, before you shoot me down on this one, just bear with me, because he is a super talent, and it's this man here, Dusan Vlahovic. If I'm pronouncing that right, I apologise if I don't. But this young man, at 21 years old, 6 foot something, is tearing up Serie A at the moment. 18 goals in all competitions. He has equalled the record of 33 goals in Serie A over a calendar year. He had the opportunity last night to beat that record that's been stood there since 1960, and unfortunately he didn't get the goal, but he equals that record alongside Cristiano Ronaldo, which is no mean feat. He is a super talent, a monster of a left foot, and there's a chance that he could move on in the January transfer window. His contract's been rejected, or contract offer's been rejected by his agent. He's adamant he wants to leave. It would be a marquee signing, no doubt about it. But Jordan, what have you heard from your point of view from Vlahovic? Are we kind of being sold down a river, or are you telling me there's a chance?
Well, I've seen a price quoted in the national media over the last few days, and it was 85 million. So we're all looking for a backup option to Callum Wilson. I think that would probably exceed Callum Wilson, to be honest. But look, you've got to dream big, haven't you? You've got to dream big. But say January £85 million signing, will Newcastle go out and do that? I don't want to completely play it down, but I think that's unlikely. But what a record that is. You mentioned there about the 18 goals in all competitions this season. I think is he only 21 years of age, you mentioned there as well. You see, he might be one in years to come where, you know, he gets a big move, maybe like a Borussia Dortmund or something, which tends to be the general option these days. You look at Haaland as well, who was turning up a few years ago, got moved to there, and then we'll probably move on to a bigger club after that. So I'd imagine he might go down a similar career path to that, but who knows? I certainly wouldn't mind him in Newcastle's front line. That's for sure.
No, look, Daz, can we dream, or is he playing hide and seek? I think he's playing hide and seek again. But look, I would love to be able to dream, to be able to believe that he could come to us. Now, the one thing that's really interesting about Dusan Vlahovic is that he's actually got a buyout clause that's set for January, which I think is about between. I think you were pretty close, Jordan. It's the 70 to 75 million, and that's his kind of January. If they were to sell him now, that's what the price is. And the reason why I think there's a great opportunity to kind of steal the market is I don't think there's going to be massive amounts of money being kind of sprayed out from other clubs. I don't think there's many clubs, if any, in January that have got that type of money available, apart from us. So we've got an opportunity to really steal the market. And what was really interesting about that, I was having a conversation with Chris Hall, one of our loaded lads, and there was a talk about potentially, you know, if you sign a player like that, and if we went down, we could kind of like loan him out to a top club for a season, give him the football at that level that he kind of deserves as we come out the Championship, and then carry him back. But I honestly believe if we got a player like that, we would stay in the league. Like he's just an absolute goal machine. And it goes back to the point, we've got an opportunity. If you want a stellar signing, if you're an ownership, if you're Amanda Stavely or Mehrdad Guendouzi and you're Jamie Rubin and you're looking at really making a statement of intent, that would be the guy. He's a main man. He's a number 9, number 10 striker, a real sort of predator in the box. But Daz, before you played hide and seek for about the 5th time.
Yeah, I'm going on a free transfer, I think, at this stage.
But look, Dusan Vlahovic, myself and Jordan have talked about him. What are your thoughts about him potentially coming? And the fact that I mentioned that we've probably got the money to sign him this in January, whereas not many other teams have.
We have the money, but will he? I'm sure he has his pick of clubs. I know if you put any or some of the people we talk about here, if you put their name into YouTube, there's different bigger clubs, let's say, that are more established, that have him on their wanted list as well. But I can't see him turning up with us. Maybe in the summer, but I'd love him to come. He looks class. I don't know an awful lot about him, but just a few YouTube clips on the Dennis Wise YouTube clips I've been, and he looks class. But Yeah, I'd be amazed if he turned up. Then the games really begin. Then
definitely. Richie, one of our loaded lads, makes a good point. City, like Vlahovic, got 55 million to spare with Torres going to Barca. Very, very true. However, I was a bit down in the dumps with that, Richie. I've got to be honest. And then I heard Pep's press conference that said he's not looking for a striker in January. And then I was like, get in. We're still with a chance. We've got a little chance.
we're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, that famous meme from Jim Carrey came into my head straight away. We're still in with a chance. But look, it potentially is a pipe dream, but he's a talented player. And why not dream big? We've got the money to spend. You know, you want to make sure we guarantee ourselves in the Premier League. What better way to do that? And I think, Daz, we got a little clip to show his abilities for those that haven't seen.
We do, and I have it here.
Monster, absolute monster. I just look, 80 million. Just pay it, please. Just pay it. He's too good. But again, another link that we'll certainly keep an eye on as the weeks go on. So we're going to move forward. We're going to look at some sort of players that have probably been a little bit more closely linked to us at Newcastle. And we'll start with this one, Jordan. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one as well. So he's an England international, currently plying his trade in Spain. He's a right wing back, and his name's Kieran Trippier. He has been the overriding link to Newcastle United since the takeover happened, and it's been continuous all the way through. And there's been reports over the last week that deal is looking like it's potentially even rubber stamped already, but certainly close. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's no secret that Kieran Trippier is probably top of Newcastle's transfer list, to be honest. Again, I'd probably go as far to say that's more likely to happen than not. The player's keen to return to England. Obviously, previously played for Tottenham, and then knows Eddie Howe from his time at Burnley as well. Respects Eddie Howe really well. I'd be surprised if Eddie Howe hasn't already been in contact with Kieran Trippier to try and sell him the Newcastle dream. But I think Kieran Trippier is keen to come if a deal can be struck. I think he's still got a couple of years left on his Atletico Madrid contract. So, but I think Diego Simeone is open to selling the player if the right offer comes in. I think there's a deal there to be had, and I think that if you're going to look at a player to sign in January, I think that's probably the most likely at this moment in time. But as I say, a lot can change in January. You can have players who are available now get to January 1st, and you figure out they're no longer available because they've had injuries or something over Christmas or something along those lines. But at this moment in time, yeah, I think that's a deal that we could definitely see at Newcastle United in the early part of the January transfer window.
Definitely. And look, it's in most cases it would look like a strange signing, buying a right wing back as your first signing when, you know, we've talked about centre backs, we've talked about, you know, midfielders and the backup for Callum Wilson. But does the Trippier deal, it's certainly being pushed through quite as quickly as possible, does that sort of tell you the type of football that Eddie Howe wants to play at Newcastle United?
Yeah, I think it does. And to be honest, if you look at the squad, they're in desperate need of a fullback. The two fullbacks they played against Man City, Jacob Murphy and Matt Ritchie, they're on fullbacks. And unfortunately, the fullback options to that is Javier Manquillo and Jamal Lewis. Now, I like Jamal Lewis. I don't think he's had a fair crack at it at Newcastle. So once he's back fit, I'm really looking forward to him having a run this side. I thought he came on really well when he got back into the side under Eddie Howe. Hadn't played previously until the February under Steve Bruce. Came back in against Norwich and I thought was building up ahead of speed. Looked really, really good. But back onto the right back position, I just think the options there are really, really poor. We talk about the centre backs. The full backs are just much of a problem because they don't have out and out full backs there. Kieran Trippier is obviously a player who we know is proven at Premier League level. So he has had experience of being in a relegation battle with Burnley, played high level football with Tottenham. I think he might have played in the Champions League final, if I might be wrong there, but he was certainly at Tottenham at the time, and has obviously got a very good England pedigree as well. Scored in the World Cup semi-final against Croatia. So you talk about Kieran Trippier's qualities, an out-and-out fullback, and also very good for set pieces as well. I think Newcastle probably lack that sort of specialist for free kicks and corners. I know Shelby's meant to have a decent delivery on him, but when I think probably his is one good delivery in 5. So Kieran Trippier brings you more than just a good right back. He brings you, I say, the dead ball qualities as well. So if they can get a player like that in, I think it will be a brilliant way to kick off the transfer window, and I think it's a big statement of intent as well, to be honest, to go out and sign a player of his pedigree.
I would 100% agree with you. And again, Richie in the chat has said that. It said exactly that. It would help attract top players. Seeing an England international joining from Atletico Madrid, who are the reigning La Liga champions right now, would be a massive, massive positive. And you know, with some of those tentative links with other players, would that potentially solidify, as Richie said? I mean, I'm inclined to agree with that. But Daz, would you agree that would kind of maybe push one or two others that are maybe sitting on the fence right now with regards to signing for Newcastle?
It sets out the stall like look, Newcastle mean business. They're going to go big here. So yeah, maybe I should jump on the train, as I heard said yesterday. And but yeah, and as Jordan said, yeah, he's crossing and he's set pieces and just pushing forward. And I suppose the link up with Eddie Howe again, who he worked with at Burnley, and it's okay. Is he 31 or something? It's maybe he wants to return home as well, you know, back to England, and might make it a bit easier for him. So yeah, it does tick a lot of boxes. Ideally, I wouldn't, if we were in mid-table, let's say, I'd be saying no. Maybe not. Maybe look for someone a bit younger. But I think where we are now, and knowing that he looks fit, like he's going to be playing for another while yet. So we'll get a lot out of him, I think.
No, it's a great point, and again, it's one to really keep a close eye on, because, as I say, it looks like it's quite close. And if we're looking at getting that deal done early in January, it possibly could be round the corner. So it's definitely one to keep a close eye on from that point of view. Just before we move on to the other focus, I've got to answer Jeff's question because he keeps throwing it at me. Yes, when the takeover happened, Jordan, you might not be aware, but I earmarked John Stones as a real sort of talented player that could really kind of change our defensive setup. Obviously, we were thinking sort of, you know, shooting for the stars in terms of all the players that we were going to get in. But he keeps mentioning John Stones. Look, John Stones is a talented player, and I would have loved for him to come in January. I think if we stay in the league, he would be 100% a target from Man City. He's not getting regular football right now. So, Jeff, just bear with me on that. Like we still got time, Jeff.
It'll happen.
It can still happen. It can still happen. And when it happens, I'm coming for you, Jeff. But we'll move on to another focus before we head into Europe. So. There's an Italian young centre midfielder that Mr. Shocks is identified as a player of supreme talent that you would love at the club. Daz, talk to us about him.
Right. Well, Pete set me the task. He goes, Daz, come with the player. Come with the player to the show tonight. And I thought, yeah, Pete will probably expect me to come with someone that's in Jesse Lingard or something like that we all know about. But I said, I'm going to surprise Pete. I'm going to come up with something. So, I've said it before. I don't keep a massive eye on the Champions League. I just kind of focus on Newcastle. I use my football time for Newcastle. Now that with the takeover has happened, I have to spend more time watching the Champions League and so on and so forth. And because it's all a scouting mission anymore. Now we can dream again. But yeah, so I went back to my and I didn't tell you this, Pete. My last football manager saves. Who did I bring? Because my tactic is I bring in the wonder kids and I develop them. So I took some of the guys I liked and had in the team, and then I went searching again on YouTube and did a bit of research on them, and I came up with this guy.
Ooh.
Sandro Tonali. Okay, he was at Brescia, I think, and he then went to AC Milan. He's 21 years old, and now we haven't a hope of getting him this in January, first of all, but for the summer. And the reason why I picked this guy, because he kind of plays number 8, number 4 kind of position in centre midfield. And I, if you remember when just before the takeover, the night before the takeover, we had Ben Jacobs on, and I tried to do a deal then with Telemans with him, but it wasn't happening, or he wanted big money anyway. And yeah, even if we were safe in the summer, I don't think we get Telemans. So I think this guy is the next best thing. You know, he looks class on the YouTube clips I've seen, and okay, I think we have to spend an awful lot more than 25 million to get him from AC Milan. But he is solid, and he's good going forward, and gets an tackle as well. So I think he kind of plays that kind of Telemans role, and he could take a free kick as well. He could share the load with Trippier. So that's who I'm making a suggestion. So now you might see his name popping up in a few articles now during the week. So because he's not linked anywhere. So that's who I'm throwing into the ring.
No, he's a talented boy. Jordan, do you know much about Tonali at AC Milan?
Well, funny enough, I used to sign him on Football Manager. And me FIFA career mode as well. He was always a player I used to sign. I say he was a wonder kid, and always just turned into an absolute unit. So if he's Football Manager records anything to go by, then yeah, get him in now. Especially if he's going to cost 25 million, as it said on the graphic.
Yeah, no, he's doing well for AC Milan as well.
He is. He doesn't always start. He doesn't always start. I think Richie's put it in the chat as well. His partner in crime, Frank Kessie, is an absolute bull. In a China shop, he just destroys midfield during the game. He is a talented boy, and at times keeps Tonali out the team. But when he does come in, he does make a difference. And he's 21, so he's only going to get better. So yeah, there's no current links with him for guys in the chat at the moment.
Yet.
No current links with him, not yet. But we hope that there are, whether it's in January or coming in the summer. But a really interesting choice there, Dad. I like that, and it was.
I'll do a Newcastle World exclusive on it tomorrow, based on.
There we go.
This starts on the argument.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for that. I'll be looking out for that now.
And okay, so I'll move on to, before we go into the European focus. My choice of focus is a centre back. But it's a very different centre back to, we've had the Tarkowski links that we'll talk about next week, and we've already talked about Nicklas Sule. But my centre back is someone very different. Again, currently plying their trade in the Championship, and it's a young centre back called Lloyd Kelly. So Lloyd Kelly currently at Bournemouth, 23 years old. He was signed from Bristol City to Bournemouth for about 13 million, I think it was, a few years ago, and he didn't have the best starts at Bournemouth. He was making mistakes, he was costing goals, but he's really seemed to have grown into his own. And actually, at 23 years old, he's actually Bournemouth's club captain, which I think, from a leadership point of view, I think he would be a fantastic, not just because of his age, because he's someone who can develop and build, but because he's already a leader in his own team, and Bournemouth are flying high in the Championship right now. Now, the reason why I say Lloyd Kelly is because I think personally that Lloyd Kelly is the type of player that Eddie Howe wants to bring in. He's looking at that young, athletic, pacey defender that's not just good in the air. I mean, he's not the tallest, but he's got a good spring on him in the air. But he can defend on the ground. He's got a good recovery tackle. He's fast. But what's key for me is that he's good on the ball. And he can play out from the back, and he's left-footed, so he's a left-sided centre back, and they're a hot commodity at the moment. And to get an English or British-based left-sided centre back who's 23 years old, currently captaining his team, I think would just be an outstanding signing. Now, look, we're not going to get him for cheap. You know, for me, I think we'd be looking around the 20 million mark if we were going to sign him. But he's been linked with us quite a bit recently, and I just think Lloyd Kelly would be a terrific signing. But Jordan, have you heard anything about Lloyd Kelly and his potential links to Newcastle United?
Yeah, he's definitely a player of interest to Eddie Howe. And I mentioned Trippier before, featuring quite high on the wish list, and Lloyd Kelly's up there as well. Everything you just highlighted there about his pace, leadership at Bournemouth, and the way he's grew into his role at Bournemouth. So he did have a shaky start there, but has obviously became an established defender and done really well, particularly this season as well. I think he's only missed about three or four games for Bournemouth this season. Definitely a player that I'd say is of interest, so want to watch. I think he's got 2 years left on his contract at Bournemouth. He was signed for 30 million, so you can probably expect if you were to get him in, potentially to pay double for that. Would Bournemouth want to sell? They are flying high at the top of the Championship. Are certainly in a promotion race anyway. So would they want to jeopardise that by offloading arguably the best centre half? We'll have to wait and see. But he's certainly a player of interest in Newcastle, and a player of interest of Eddie Howe, because Eddie Howe signed him previously. So what to say? I've mentioned it before, but yeah, definitely want to watch. And I think would be a good sign as well. A good age, and as you mentioned there, a really athletic guy, pacey fullback. Everything that Newcastle's current defence lacks in terms of pace anyway. So they do need someone like that. But let's wait and see. Anyway, I'd say he is a player of interest. That's I can definitely confirm that.
Great to hear. Daz, would you be excited about the prospect of Lloyd Kelly coming in? Do you know much about him?
No, this is where I could dip out. I could pause and pretend I'm frozen again or something. But no, I don't know an awful lot about him. Actually, I was saying, yeah, we mentioned his name before, and I still haven't done my research on him, so I do need to look up. But there's so many players we're linked with. It's difficult. I'm gonna wait till it's more secure and then dive into the research. So, but Eddie Howe worked with them before, so he knows what it's all about. If he wants to go for him, that's a plus for me. Go for it. Happy.
And just on that as well, sorry, just another player at Bournemouth that they might potentially look at is, and I don't think it would be a sign that would particularly get the fans excited, but Steve Cooper is a player that is doing is a name that is doing the rounds. So if they were to get Lloyd Kelly, it might not be the most eye-catching of signings, but Steve Cooper, I think, is an option. Captained Bournemouth when Eddie Howe was there, is a player that is trusted by Eddie Howe. Say not the most flattering of signings, but certainly one that would a player that Eddie Howe feels you can trust.
I would agree. The thing with Steve Cook is that although he hasn't got those raw attributes that maybe Lloyd Kelly has, is that he has that organisational sort of quality about him. He knows how to organise a defence. He can move defences up. He can keep things tight. He's a leader on the pitch, which, you know, we are Loaded talk about this all the time, is that we don't have a leader in our back line whatsoever. And someone that can bark those orders, keep the line tight, move players up. It would just make a significant difference to the way in which we perform. And I wouldn't kind of put my nose up to Steve Cook potentially coming in. He knows, as you've rightly said, Jordan, he knows Eddie Howe, he knows the way he plays, and that would be a real positive signing. I can see in the chat there's so many other names being thrown around. And this is the beauty of the transfer show, because there are names that are in the chat right now that we're going to discuss, but they'll be on different weeks, and it will be depending on as those transfers solidify or as they drift away. So, you know, if we haven't talked about a name that you've put in the chat right now, just please don't worry. We'll be talking about them and many more as they come in from week to week. But at this point now, we've covered the players of focus. We're now going to look into Europe, and we're going to look at the French connections. So we've stayed away from the French-based players, and the reason being is because we have someone based in France doing his reporting, and we're going to hear a little bit more about some of the French players. So I'm not going to say any more than that. We're just going to play the 2-part video from Lee Davey, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the transfers potentially that could come our way from France, some of the links, some players to look out for that we may not know about as well. So a really interesting watch. Take it away, Daz.
And this is in 2 parts, so it will stop and we'll play the second part then. So let's play.
Hi everyone, my name is Lee Davey and I am a journalist and writer for Ligue1.com, specialising mainly in French football. So I've come on today to talk about some of the players that are currently applying their trade in Ligue 1 that have been linked with Newcastle United. So first and foremost, one of the players who's very heavily linked with Newcastle is Boubacar Kamara. What we have here is a 22-year-old defensive midfielder who is quite the player. He's from Marseille. He's spent his whole career in Marseille. But the likelihood is he's going to leave at the end of the season. A really good prospect that certainly would flourish in any other European league. He's primed. He's certainly for the Premier League. Physicality would have no problem with, as a lot of French players don't, due to the physical nature of Ligue 1. But what we have here on our hands is a very, very good footballer, technically sound, positionally very, very good. He's got that bite, he's got that tenacity, but he can also play. So he can use both feet, a nice range of short and long passing, and certainly finds himself in great positions defensively and offensively. Would be a fantastic addition to Newcastle United, and certainly someone that would help Newcastle's midfield no end and just have that extra dimension, that extra solidity in that midfield. If Newcastle can get hold of him, it would certainly, propel Newcastle's midfield to another level. So, certainly someone that I would endorse, and someone actually that Paris Saint-Germain were looking at a little while ago. And it's not often that PSG and Marseille, players will interchange between the two rival clubs. So, but someone that PSG were looking and monitoring very, very closely, literally just about 18 months ago. Excellent player there. The second player I want to talk about is Sven Botman, and there's a few clubs looking at Sven Botman. He's kind of appeared out of nowhere, and he's been a little bit of a revelation. He was signed from the Ajax reserve team, and he had his first season last season at Lille in Ligue 1, and he was really one of the pillars of that title-winning team. So he formed a really solid defensive pairing with Jose Font, and they built their title success upon defensive solidity. He was excellent. Again, positionally fantastic. Reads the game so well. He's 6'5". He's 21 years old. He's got a hell of a future ahead of him, and really, I know he's very, very well thought of in France. Now, a lot of teams have started kind of circling around this player, and I know AC Milan are very, very interested in him. It'll be interesting to see what his next option is and where he wants to go. Again, very well primed for England, but also primed for any other European league. Really fantastic aerially. He will get stuck in, and, he's one of those real no-nonsense defenders, but also, again, good on the ball, very disciplined, and would be a very fantastic addition to any Premier League team, not just Newcastle United, any Premier League team. So a really good up-and-coming prospect there in Sven Botman. And again, if Newcastle, want to certainly bolster their defence, and let's be honest, that's got to be an area that needs improvement, that needs kind of reinforcement, then Sven Botman would not be the worst option there, and certainly would feel like a player that could come in and make an immediate impact there as well. So those are certainly two of the ones that I feel that Newcastle would have I would say, a fair shot of getting. The third one that's been a recent link is Moussa Dembele. Now, obviously, we'll know him because he's played in the Premier League before. He played at Fulham. He's also played for Celtic. So we those teams that are closer to home. So we know a little bit about him. We know he can score goals. We know he's a striker with a kind of predatory instinct. But his time hasn't been. I would say he's not been his happiest time in Lyon. There's been a few changes, certainly structurally. There's been some changes tactically that hasn't really fit in with him. And he's one of those players that you need to build a system around him. And if you do, he'll score you goals. There's no doubt about that. He's got that instinct. He's got that ability to find the net. He's fantastic, certainly around the 18-yard box, and he's got a lot to offer in that position. But it's a funny one for me because, he's fell out of favour last season. He went on loan to Atletico Madrid, and they had a loan with a purchase option, which they didn't take up. So he's gone back to Lyon, albeit under new management, under Peter Bosz this season, and last season they're under Rudy Garcia. And he's not really hit the ground running this season either. So it almost feels as though a change would do him the world of good. Again, someone that would be able to jump in the Premier League and hit the ground running straight away. But I look at that situation and think he's not going to bring anything different to what Callum Wilson can bring. And if you're giving, for someone who watches a lot of Moussa Dembele and watches a lot of Lyon, I don't see what he can bring that's any different to Callum Wilson. And certainly Callum Wilson I would see as probably a more pertinent threat in front of goal than what he would be. Again, if you're looking for backup, if you're looking for that kind of player, then yes, it would be an option. But I'm not sure he would want to move on from Lyon to be a backup player at this current moment in time. So I'm not sure whether that would or should be an option for Newcastle or a priority, but still,
So that was part one. So we talked about some of those French players that have been linked with us, Jordan. So Lee talked about the likes of Boubacar Kamara, Sven Botman, and more recently, in the last couple of days, Moussa Dembele. So from your perspective, from a Newcastle perspective, reporting on Newcastle, those three players, are there any truth to some of those links, or are they sort of a little bit far-fetched at this point in time?
Yeah, Botman's certainly a player that's been mentioned. He was first mentioned, I think, last month, and I think his price tag was possibly a little bit high. But as the sort of weeks have progressed, I think his price tags came on. I think there's rumours now that he could be available for 27 million. Now, I don't watch a lot of French football, so I can't comment on how he plays exactly. But based on our friend there, who is obviously well in the know, is talking up very, very strongly. And sounds like the type of player that Newcastle would need in that back line, given at the minute they've got that, got zero physical presence really, and lack of pace, etc. So it would bring a lot of physicality in Newcastle's back line. If the price tag is indeed 27 million, then Newcastle might go for it. Is he a player I think he's got 3 years left on his contract, maybe? So for that type of money, for an up-and-coming sort of player who's, I know his rise has only just happened, but for that type of money, really, I'd probably say that was a no risk. Certainly with Kamara, he was a player that was linked with Newcastle in the summer. They did attempt to sign him under Steve Bruce, but unfortunately didn't come through. Now Newcastle's interest, I believe, is still there, but there's a lot of competition for the player now. Manchester United are one name that's been linked over the last couple of weeks. So again, a player that is of interest, but can Newcastle attract them over the likes of Manchester United if that is an option? I'm not sure, but in terms of January transfer window, Marseille will probably want to sell, given he is out of contract at the end of the season. So, who knows if Newcastle put in an offer, he is of interest. Whether it's a transfer priority, I'm not sure. But as I say, he is a player that that is of interest. Certainly was in the summer and now under the new ownership as well. And Moussa Dembele. First time I've heard that link, to be honest. But it would be a very interesting signing that. I think he went on loan to Atletico Madrid last year. Didn't quite work out for him, but has gone back to Lyon. I think probably suffered a bit badly with injury, but was obviously played brilliantly for Celtic. Got his move to Lyon. And if you can get him out, I'd imagine Moussa Dembele deal would be a loan to buy possibly. And I can't see why Newcastle wouldn't go for a loan to buy deal. The guy mentioned there about not being as good as Callum Wilson, but even if he was a little bit below Callum Wilson or level par with Callum Wilson, it's better than what Newcastle have got. And if Callum Wilson is to get injured, which we mentioned earlier on the show, there's no fallback. So a Moussa Dembele signing for me would be a good one if they can get him on a loan to buy deal. But in terms of genuine links, it's not someone I've heard at this moment in time. But I'm sure that could quickly progress over the next week or so.
No, I would agree. Some fantastic points there. We're just talking, Daz, just about the three players: Botman, Boubacar Kamara, and also Moussa Dembele. And yeah, the links have been there with the first two, with Boubacar Kamara and Sven Botman. Look, the one thing I'll say about Sven Botman is that obviously we talked about Nicklas Sule and Lloyd Kelly as potentials. You know, he has the world at his feet, Sven Botman. He's come in from nowhere and he's really sort of hit the ground running at Lille, won the title last year, is playing in the Champions League and playing well as well. They've got into the next qualification rounds as well. But the key to it all is that Lille are financially really struggling right now. And they've just signed off a deal to Fiorentina for Jonathan Coady, their right winger, for as little as I think 13 or 14 million euros. Absolute peanuts for the talent that he is. So it doesn't surprise me that what Jordan said, that we could potentially get Botman for around the 27 million mark, because at 21 years old he would be worth significantly more at this period of time. But Sven Botman, Daz, what do you think about that particular link?
Yeah, no, I didn't know an awful lot about him, but we have been talking about him the last while, and yeah, we've watching a few clips of him. He looks solid as well. You know, he'd be perfect in our backline, and he's young, of course. Exactly, I put him in. If I was playing Football Manager, Jordan, I'd put him in my Wonder Kids category. So yeah, I'd be bringing him in. And yeah, and I know some people have said it in the comments, and I noticed as well. God, I do know this is what Dennis Wise is to do. I'll just watch YouTube clips all day. What a great job he had. But Boubacar Kamara. Yeah, we've been talking about him for a while. But yeah, Man United are all over him. They think they have him. You know. So we'll see how that one plays out.
And this is the thing, you know, the French market is a market where a lot of big teams go to pluck their best players from, and it goes back to the point we're in a position where we have the financial clout to be able to outbid and outbuy some of these young talents, and I think that's what we're going to need to do. If we're going to prize them away from their teams and away from some of the rivals in the top six. But so really, really interesting. We're going to keep a close eye on those three potentials moving forward as the weeks come on. But there is a second part to Lee's video where he talks about some players, not necessarily linked, but some players in France that you may want to keep an eye out. So take a load of this.
Let's play part two. Just if they only could clone Callum Wilson, well, maybe that's what's happening here.
But still, you know, you know what he's about. We've seen what he's about. I do think there's probably some better options out there. One of those options, and I'm going to give just a few tips and hints and tips and about some of the players in Ligue 1 that to basically keep an eye out for. One would be Mohamed Bayo, who is a striker for newly promoted Clermont. He's really strong, physical, good finisher, got a very languid style, but, you know, he's scoring goals week in, week out for a team that's really in free fall at the moment. He's got a bright future ahead of him. You should be able to catch him in the African Cup of Nations this coming winter, so coming up in January. But again, a really, really solid player, Mohamed Bayo. Again, nice young player, got the world at his feet. He'll be very much up and coming. I'm sure you guys will hear about him. Another one, rumour, who's been signed from Croatia. He's now at Rennes, and he's literally he's a clone of Luka Modric. If you get the chance to watch Rennes this season, they're probably the most entertaining team in Ligue 1. Certainly go and check him out. He's a clone of Luka Modric. He looks like him. He's got the headband, the hair, but he plays just like him. He's the second coming. He's certainly someone to keep an eye on. rumour, spelled Majer. And you've got a couple of guys at Brest. Yeah, Roman Favre, who's been heavily linked with AC Milan, forward there, and a guy called Frank Honora, who I generally believe will be certainly a move to the Premier League in the future if he carries on his great form. Two players there are doing great things at Brest as they've kind of gone on a 6-game winning streak, which is quite a big deal for a club like Brest. So Frank Honora, Roman Favre, two really solid players there to look at. And just finally, a couple of players at Lens. Jonathan Klaus, who is a right wing back. Guys, go check him out. Fantastic player. Incredible amount of assists and goals this season. And another guy in midfield, their captain, Seko Fofana, who is just an absolute revelation for Lens as well. I mean, these are players that Newcastle really would do, you know, they could do a lot worse. And, you know, buying from Ligue 1 is good business. You can get good prices. The players are primed for the Premier League. It makes a lot of sense. So certainly check those guys out. And thanks for having me. And all the best.
Thanks, Callum.
Callum, I'm going to tell him that. Yeah, massive thanks to Lee for coming on, writer for Liga and Eurosport. He will be back at some point as the transfer window progresses, and we'll sprinkle his little sort of gold dust on knowledge, all French football and European football related. So yeah, great to hear from him, and some real gems to kind of look out for, and the one that he kind of mentioned that I wanted to kind of just talk about is rumour from Rennes currently. He is, as you can see, the Luka Modric clone.
Jesus, that is Modric.
if you look at a quick glance, you would think it was Luka Modric. He's even wearing the number 10. Very, very talented player. Had a fantastic season this season currently, and at the moment he's on 6 goals and 9 assists in the league at the moment. And if you look at this table here, I'll just pop this up in a second. You actually can't see where rumour is on the chart because he's that high in terms of, you know, his output from assists versus the expected assists within the 500 minutes played. Thank you for that, Daz. He is actually way and above up there than a lot of players in the league. Only sort of Messi and Di Maria are anywhere near him, which I think tells you a lot about the quality that he's producing at 21 years old. So I think he's a player certainly to look out for. Anyone that plays Football Manager, definitely have a look at him. I imagine he'll be a fantastic player on there. So definitely have a look. But just wanted to kind of focus on him as a potential. But,
and just on that, Pete, on this guy. And I'm frozen again. I say, Jesus, I can't win today. But he looks like Luka Modric. But at the same time, he looks nothing like Gil Platt from Coronation Street. That's the strange thing for me. But anyway,
you're right, and they are the spitting image, Gil Platt and Luka Modric. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. I've got to be honest. But
I hope he's not the second homecoming of Luka Modric, given Newcastle's previous history of trying to sign Luka Modric when a certain steward, former Chelsea steward, told told Mike Ashley or the recruitment team at the time, Dennis Wise, that he wasn't good enough, and obviously upset Mr. Kevin Keegan. So hopefully, if they do have a chance to sign any kind of Luka Modric sort, then they won't go down. Well, they won't. They can learn from previous lessons of 2007, I think it was 2007, 2008.
I can remember it clearly. I remember seeing on Sky Sports News Luka Modric being shown around our training facilities, which back then would have been amazing. Right now, they're certainly not. But him getting shown around the training facilities and literally rubbing my hands together and thinking, "Deal done." And then, as you've said, the tide turned very quickly, and he ended up at Tottenham. And you can only imagine what he would have done in our midfield if we'd have signed him when we should have. Again, one of many of those top level elite players that have slipped through the net. And it goes back to the point. Hopefully, we'll never be in that position again to be able to allow that to happen. Certainly under this ownership, but. At this point now, ADB 5-5, Luca Platt. I'll take that definitely. We'll go to now a few questions in the chat, because there's been some really good questions in the chat throughout the evening, and I know Daz has been going along and starring a few.
Yes, Pete and I'm back again. For how long?
Close them out there for us, mate.
Okay. Oh, I'm frozen, but I'll stay. I'm going to stay frozen for a while and see what happens. Do you think there will be loans, permanents? Any idea how the club are viewing this? I suppose, yeah. What's the club's thoughts on that shake-up, Jordan?
I think it'll be a mix. To be honest, I think there's a few players. Funny enough, in France, there's a player that came to our attention last week at Newcastle World, Abdou Diallo. The Paris Saint-Germain centre-half. If they were to bring him in, that would be a loan-to-buy deal. And then, permanent deals could be anyone. But to answer that question, it could be a mix. I'd imagine maybe more loan-to-buys, given the position that Newcastle are in the Premier League table. But there will be permanents as well. I am expecting a busy transfer window, 4 signings minimum, to be honest.
No, I would agree. I mean, for just before we get to some of the questions, for you, obviously reporting on Newcastle day in, day out, how excited are you for this January transfer window? Like, we've not asked you this before, but how excited are you seeing the players that we've talked about tonight on the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, but the array of transfers that we haven't even covered yet? Like, how excited are you about this?
Yeah, well, it's really exciting. Some of the players that Newcastle have been linked with already, it's a dream, to be honest. Just a few names like Ousmane Dembele from Barcelona. You see players like that pop up, and because you've had sort of 14 years of Mike Ashley, you sort of brush it off. But then you do remember that. Then you remember, the club is under new ownership, and these are the type of players that they can realistically go out and sign. So I'm excited in that sense, but it'll be a tough one to report on, I think, because there'll be a lot of agents, etc., feeding you names that might not be true. So obviously, my responsibility as a reporter is to report the truth, basically. So it'll probably be the busiest transfer window I've had in terms of covering a club, because there's going to be a lot of names thrown at you. Even now, before the January transfer window, the amount of names that Newcastle have been linked with, I've lost count. Fans will have lost count. It's a new name every day. So an exciting one, because some of the players that they could potentially go out and sign will be huge signings that will get the fans excited. But say from my point of view as well, it's about getting the names right and reporting names that I could generally sign for Newcastle in the January transfer window.
Definitely. And I tell you what, it's going to be busy for us on Loaded HQ as well, because these transfer shows are going to be stacked with lots of talk, lots of interest. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We were talking about it the other night, the Loaded boys in our chat, and we were just saying, like this is going to be just mental. Like we're going to get links coming out of our ears, but
bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on. Yeah, I think you're right, Daz. It wouldn't have wanted it any other way whatsoever. So yeah, Daz, any more questions in there?
Yeah. There's about 4 or 5 questions. The wing back at Everton, would Rafa do us a favour and give us him, because they were linked to a replacement, and he's not getting a game or so. So, heard anything about that, Jordan?
In terms of transfer link, there's nothing concrete on that. But if you look at Dini's situation at Everton, I think sort of in the typical Rafa way, he's had a falling out with a player. I love Rafa Benitez at Newcastle, but typically he was the fallout with players if they didn't buy into his intense methods and his way or no way. So it sounds like Dini's went beyond that and upset Rafa Benitez. And I think he's been left out, the last 3 or 4 match day squads, potentially more. So a great player. We talk about like the Kieran Trippier. I'd look at Dini's out as an out-and-out fullback as well, and then has that dead ball specialist technique in him. So whether that would be an option in January, I'm not too sure on that, but certainly a player that if there was a deal to be had, that me personally, I'd be interested if I was Newcastle, because he's a French left back and a really, really strong Premier League player.
Cool. Definitely. And look, you don't play for Barcelona and PSG unless you're a talented boy, and he certainly is. Like you've said, his delivery, his set pieces are second to none, and adding an extra couple of players that have got that ability can only be a good thing for us, because it's just another little notch on our belt that we can use in order to score goals and win matches. And going back to Eddie Howe and watching his style under Bournemouth, they were very, very good at set pieces, and they used to mix it up quite a lot and have lots of people. I remember Harry Wilson being one of them that was very, very much a set piece specialist for them. So could be one that's of interest for us. 100%. So looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that. But there's one little link here before we go back to the questions as Daz comes back in. There's a little link here that I saw that quite surprised me, I've got to be honest, Jordan. This one for linked to Edin Dzeko. Edin Dzeko currently Inter Milan, scoring goals and playing well at the moment. But Edin Dzeko, have you heard anything from that?
No, not one I've heard personally either. But I'd take him in a heartbeat for whatever. Would it be a low move to the end of the season, or even buy him for a year and a half? Could certainly add a lot of value in Newcastle's front line, a different option. So we keep saying it, but Callum Wilson, if Callum Wilson is to get injured, then who do you turn to? And St. Maxim can play down the middle, but he just lacked that out-and-out striker. And another one on the screen there, Anthony Martial. That's an interesting one. I think there's rumours that he wants to go to Seville in Spain. Yeah. But we talk about before about potential loan to buy. Martial probably fits that bill, and I'd be surprised if Newcastle. Not that I know anything on this, but I'd be surprised if Newcastle weren't didn't at least put an inquiry in on Martial, because he fits the bill, doesn't he? In terms of you could potentially get him on a loan to buy deal. But 2 strikers there. This time last year, I think we would have laughed if we were linked with players like that. So to see that again, we talked before about the January excitement, that just adds to it, seeing 2 high-profile players linked to Newcastle.
I would have to agree. I think it'd be rude not to put a cheeky bid in and see what comes out of that. We've certainly got the money to blow Seville out the water.
Pete, there's a question here from Chris. We have to answer it. He wants to know who the French football expert is.
Okay, so he did introduce himself on the video, but he is Lee Davey of Ligue 1 and Eurosport. He is actually my elder brother.
Hey, surprise!
Yeah, he's my older brother. yeah, he's the reason why I support Newcastle. I have to be honest, because Lee, although being a PSG fan since the 90s, when the likes of Ginola was there, he's always been very sort of French orientated. He loved watching PSG back in the 90s, but he always used to take me to watch Newcastle because I loved Newcastle, and I wasn't old enough to go. So I was very lucky that he kind of gave me some of those early experiences of Kevin Keegan. And then through into the early 2000s of Sir Bobby Robson, and we even had a season ticket for a couple of years up there, where we used to travel together every weekend. So he has a vested interest in Newcastle United because he's followed the club as I've supported the club. So he will be back with plenty more on French football. But just to answer your question, Chris, that is who he is. You'll be able to follow him. We'll tag him in at the end of the show, and we'll go from there. But right, where's Daz?
I'm still here.
Last couple of questions, Daz.
Did you cover the one on Calvin Phillips?
No, we didn't.
Nope.
So rumours. There were a couple of rumours in the last sort of 48 hours swirling around. I think it initiated from. Am I right, Daz? It initiated from the sort of the Leeds fans, but
that's right. Yeah,
talking about a deal done. Is that sort of pie in the sky, Jordan?
Yeah, there's no deal done for Calvin Phillips, sadly. But I mean, I'd love a player like Calvin Phillips at Newcastle United. That would be an absolutely unbelievable signing. But if they were to sign him now, I think he's injured for the next 2 months anyway. So ideally, you want players that are going to come in straight away and make an impact and obviously help Newcastle get up the table. Whereas you sign Calvin Phillips, then you've got to wait a little while for him to get back up to fitness. But there's no way Leeds United would sell to Newcastle United. There's absolutely no chance of that happening. I'd be very, very shocked if Calvin Phillips just end up in the black and white shirt come the end of January. But in terms of a compete player, Calvin Phillips is absolutely exceptional. During my early days at JPI Media, I actually covered Leeds United quite a lot, and when Calvin Phillips was in the Championship, and to watch his rise has been excellent. So if there was a deal to be had, then I'd love to see him here. But no, I'm gonna have to play that one down, sadly.
Unfortunately, he had a super summer, and he's had a bit of a mixed bag this season. A few injuries. I think he's out for at least 2 months now. He's just had shoulder surgery, as you might have already mentioned. So it doesn't look like a deal that would be ideal right now, but certainly in the summer, 100%. You can imagine him. With the clone of Luka Modric potentially in our midfield, going into
a lot of clones, mate.
Yeah, a lot of clones. Last question, Daz. Any others?
Yeah, Conor Coady. I know a lot of people have him in their sights now since we got linked to him there a couple of weeks ago, and would Wolves let him go? I guess, and or have you heard anything about this one, Jordan? As I drop out again.
Yeah, he's Conor Coady is a player that's been considered as well, but I find it really hard to see Wolves selling to Newcastle. To be honest, he is their club captain, a big favourite down there. I know Conor Coady spoke really positively about Newcastle when the takeover gone through on TalkSport. Was one of the few players that actually praised Newcastle United as a club, saying it was a big club, and he was happy for them. I think that got Newcastle fans listening, going, "Oh, I'd love to sign Conor Coady in January." I'd love to see Conor Coady at Newcastle in January, but I find it really hard to see why Wolves would sell to Newcastle. To be honest, I'm not sure on his contract situation, but I can't imagine Wolves are in a position to need to sell him anytime soon. So he has been considered by Newcastle, but I think it's one of them where probably won't go through, but you never know.
No, it's an interesting one, and Wolves are having a decent season. To be fair, they've come out of nowhere and they're sitting, I think, top 8 at the moment, which is,
Great question.
Look, we've had many of our wrestlers over the years growing up, many of fights, many of fallouts, but no, he's a great guy. He is an absolute monster compared to me, and I'm not small. So yeah, he trains every day. He trains like a machine. So yeah, he would win very, very comfortably. And Dan is absolutely right. Lee is a lot bigger than me physically. He's probably got more muscle on in one of his arms than I have in both my legs. But I think Conor Coady is a proper leader. It'd be a great signing, but I think we'd have to pay a lot of money to get him out of his contract. And the age he's at, and I just don't know whether it would work in January. Summer, 100%. So I agree with Jordan on that. But Daz, sponsors.
Yeah, let's go with sponsors. Yeah, we'll wrap up the show now as well. But yeah, let's go a few bits of housekeeping. So yeah, first up, shout out to Black and White Army. Log on to blackandwhitearmy.com, Bronwyn's website. There's a few bits left there, I think, that you can grab a bargain. And yeah, as we said before, Bronwyn will be back with us in the new year to launch a new brand and new collections, and we do look forward to that. So great to have her coming on the show. We will have another spinny wheel as well for our members at some stage. I don't know when, but yeah, we'll have that coming up. And since I mentioned members, I should let people know. For $1.99, you can join and be a member. The button would be in down towards the bottom of the screen, and also along with it there is the subscribe button. So hit that subscribe button. That would be great for us to try and get our subs up and grow the channel. And yeah, then I just want to tell you about. First of all, I'm going to say I apologize the amount of times that I've frozen, and I apologize to Jordan as well because it's been distracting for the lads as well. So just never had that problem before.
He's been playing a bit of hide and seek, mate. That's all. Yeah.
So yeah, we have our Christmas special, which we did record last night, and there are some really funny bits in that, especially at the start, I must say. So take away the bandage so you can see it properly. Yeah, so Christmas with Kennedy, that is our Christmas special. You might recognize that face, Jordan. But yeah, so you'll hear from Liam on a Christmas special tomorrow, and yeah, some great information and great chat with Liam. Good to catch up, and some really funny moments as well. So stay tuned for that one. So that's going out at 8:00 tomorrow. Also, then we have away days coming on the 26th. And Pete, do you want to talk to us about away days?
Yeah, but Boxing Day specials. Boxing Day special. So we're running back with away days with Sports Armchair, Weekly Armchair Sports, and also All for United podcasts. Keen is going to come and join us again to talk about the massive game for us on Monday when we play Newcastle, when we play Manchester United at St James's Park. So tune in from 7:30. We'll be talking all things Newcastle versus Man United. Really looking forward to that. It was a great chat last time, and hopefully this time we can talk about potentially is getting 3 points, because boy do we need it. I just wanted to say very quickly before we close off, massive thanks to CFC Florida. They put some money into the channel this evening. Massive thanks to that. Anything that's put in is massively appreciated, and it just helps the channel tick itself over. So massive thanks to you for that. Every little helps, and obviously also becoming a member. Lots of members in the chat tonight, 100%. But I think that's it.
One other thing, Pete. There's another show, and I apologize. I did have the wrong poster up there. We have a new poster for the away days that I put together earlier. But yeah, we have one last show as well. We're going to have a live watch along for the Newcastle Man United match. So we're going to go out at 7:30 on the 27th. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do it as a special. Give it a go for Unloaded. So another one to keep an eye on.
Definitely. But Jordan, you made it. You made it through. You're first. But I tell you what, it was an absolute pleasure to share the show with you. Fantastic knowledge of the club. It was just great to chat to you just about all things Newcastle and transfers. And I'm sure we'll have you back on again as the weeks unfold. So massive thanks for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Daz, thank you for being the best high-netting specialist we've ever seen. But thanks for everything. You've been absolutely spot on. Really enjoyable show. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Had way over 100 tuning in tonight. Lots and lots of questions. As we said right at the beginning, we're not going to cover all the players. We've got weeks to do that, and there will be new links every day, every week. So we will cover them all, and this will be the home for your transfer news. So massive thanks to everybody. Enjoy the show tomorrow, particularly the first few minutes. If you don't see Mark, you'll know why very soon into the show. And if I don't speak to you all before, have a fantastic Christmas. You guys take care.
Thanks, Jordan. Happy Christmas, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you.
Good luck. Bye-bye.